hundreds of trillions of dollars coursing through our economic veins, there exists a pathway where no U.S. citizen needs endure poverty. Every child should be shielded from involuntary hunger and thirst. By eradicating greed and corruption, we pave the way forward. This chapter delves into the rationale behind our governmental expenditure and prompts a critical inquiry into how our leaders allocate our resources.
Yeah, no, I didn't say that. I was trying to flip it over really quick. You guys know I'm on a move, finishing up the move. By the way, you guys have been asking, is the new studio going to look a little different? It does. I've alluded to this. This used to be up in my office. In the old studio, as you know, we had the Shark Tank and the meeting rooms, and then around the corner was my office, then was accounting, and over my shoulder when we did one-on-ones together, you always saw that thing right back there. And you saw yesterday our show with Emma, my granddaughter. We're starting that series up now, and it's looking pretty strong. We've got a lot of questions back on that as far as topics and so forth. As you know, she's an oncoming junior, just getting into the social media stuff. My eldest, her uncle, has got a big B Money show, which you'll be interested in that, David. It does a lot in the like what you're going to talk about today in that Bitcoin and the current not Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and well, maybe Bitcoin, as well as the different type of investing. And what I really like about David's story is, and he'll get into this deeper, but dynamic financial expert. When I say a financial expert, and I know I told you about terminology, right, David? The terminology financial expert is supposed to be tied to a certain thing. But what I'm talking about is the ability to reach out, see markets, and take advantage of the excesses or get out before the losses. And he works on a different style than the traditional market that we hear about, but a lot of people do. As a matter of fact, you guys remember Mike Volanic, who producer Barbie has been studying under now since, I think he was about 7-8 months ago. Old friend of mine does a very similar tactic. Not tactic, that's a bad word when you're talking about money, isn't it? Looks like we got a couple people sneaking on here. Hey guys, appreciate you coming on. If you'll notice, I'm going to be acting a little funky today is when I'm trying to read things. I'm going to be doing this more than I want because I was just telling David here. Well, yesterday was our first show at the new place, the new gigs, the new digs. We're in Oklahoma now from Chicago. Completely different world, and we'll get into this subject as we do on the morning and the morning coffee and tea time. We'll get back into this continuing saga about the move here and all the wonderful things that it's providing for additional color within the layers of the great middle class. And today we have a really, really good example of that. This is an ability, and David's got a unique, I believe, well, no, I don't believe, well, I do believe, but he does have a unique perspective. And we were just talking about it as he was trying to reach for those green M&Ms, chocolate covered. So I and he went over a little bit about the really important part of the story here. Anybody, if you've got capital, as he said, if you got capital, you can trade. It's kind of like, you know, it'll either keep building or eventually you don't have that capital anymore, or you just kind of stay flat, whatever. I'm not an expert in this. That's why we have David here. And we were talking about how that's the typical story. And actually, now that you mention it, Mike was in that. He comes from the industry I come from. We were talking about the machinery business. Oh wow, okay, they're starting to fly on here, David. I should wrap up a little bit of my little. Hey audience, guess what we got here? Yeah, and I can sit back and enjoy an expert talking about things that are actually important to know. So I'm gonna kick back here in a second, but. I did want to finish my thought in that David came from the aspect of, okay, how do I do this? We talk about, as we talk about curiosity a lot on this show, his coming to the point of the journey that he's on now, which needs to be passed on to us. And I'm so glad that people are coming on early today, so that we can get this information. I'm going to have David for sure. I can tell this is probably going to be a pretty popular topic amongst our family here, our community. So I'm going to have him later on in the show, and I'll remind you, David, to put his contact information in so that he can contact you about maybe some additional levels of how these things work. And that seems to be a popular path for people, because I can't follow everybody around that needs to get to David and check those messages, although I love it when you put them on there all the time. Please subscribe, please like this video, and please welcome my newest, bestest friend in the world, David.
Hey.
You today, Miss. How you doing? What are you doing today? Are you ready? Are you ready for this? Because I have a feeling you're going to make some people wealthy today. The start of that journey.
Yeah, I'm excited. I have nothing planned for today, just like every other day. So it's a good start.
Oh my God, that you're starting off with that right now. You sound like my son. Hey, I get to do whatever I want. It's a great day. Let me tell you about some things. I could take my time because I'm not in a rush to get there. So let's start off with your story. How did you get to a point where you knew you could do this? Not aesthetically. What's the word? Not just in the actions of it, but you knew that it was possible to be able, knowing that it takes resources to be able to trade. How did you kind of get to that point where what did you go through? What was the pre-life like for you?
Well, I started trading when I was 18 years old. I'm 31 now.
18.
It's been some time. I think 18 is the minimum age requirement to open up a brokerage.
I would think so. Yeah.
And I guess during that time, I guess both of my parents, they came from Vietnam from the war, so nobody really taught me about anything. But growing up, I've always had a passion for building wealth, and just because I saw that it was a vehicle, to get me to where I want to be and build a lifestyle that I want. And so I've been trading since I was 18, so that's quite a long time. And during that time I was trading, there's not a lot of educators out there, right? Sometimes you get YouTube.
Good point.
Yeah, there might be. I mean, if you go on YouTube, there's a lot of free resources. I still refer people to them. But what's different about learning from YouTube versus learning by yourself is that all the material on YouTube, it's not organized in actionable data, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody on YouTube is teaching you how to do something, they're missing a lot of context. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, right? And I had to learn. Oh my God,
that's in everything, isn't it? I mean, literally everything. I same thing. I've done that myself. And then you even here doing some of the stuff on some of the automation we do. It's like, what the hell are you talking about, dude? Where that's not working here. So It's hard, isn't it? It's tough.
Yeah, and I mean, in the financial world, the statistics is like 97%, or at least 90+% of traders fail. And so, like, why would somebody that knows that, why would they even go into like this kind of business, right? And so,
wow. Well, hold on. Let's stay on that for a second. Literally, that's just that it's that high. I mean, half of businesses fail. I get, but that high, 95% of traders fail. God, that's harder than I thought it was. That's tough.
Yeah. Trading's the business too. So I see that statistics in business, and you see that over 90% of startups fail too. And so it's interesting to see that correlation, because trading is a business, right? And so, I mean, I spent this entire time just learning technical analysis, building skills, and it's just endless, right? And so you're learning something, and it takes a lot of time just to master one thing, just to only find out that there's something else that you need to master, right? And so I did this all the way until 2022, which is my trading journey. But during that time, I've as an entrepreneur, I've done a lot of different things. I as an investor, right? You need capital to trade. I tell that to everybody. And so my journey kind of started off a bit. I would say it's the opposite of what everybody else goes through, because in order to trade, you need to have capital. In order to invest, you need to have capital. And
Sure.
typically people don't have capital until they're like in their 30s or 40s, and my story is a bit different because I started off with a handful of cash, and found some really unique opportunities, like like crypto. I was a crypto investor. I had my own mining
You were in
farm.
early. You were in
Yeah,
early. What? Yeah.
yeah, I was in college, and one of my friends introduced me to it. And I was living in a dorm at that time, and he was living in a dorm at the time. And we had this awesome idea to, move out of our dorm and used our dorm as our like mining facility. And so we had this dorm room with just full of mining rigs because the electricity is free. And so
Well,
you
I was
need
going to say, did they ever pick up on that? As far as, because all of a sudden there's a shoot. It's
yeah,
it's
I mean,
it's power.
yeah, and back then nobody really knew anything about
They had
crypto.
no idea.
And even up to this day, a lot of people are like, "Well, it's a scam, this and that," and I think that it kind of proved everybody wrong once crypto started getting listed onto like the futures and markets, and the big guys are doing it. And so, I mean, that was just one of
This administration, I think, is actually taking it to the next level.
yeah, I
I
think
mean,
so.
all administrations across the world, I think, have already started, and now, and great point you bring up here, David. I'm glad you brought that up, because now what you have is you have literally a race to establish. So we own the dollar here, right? So of course, so we own the better, the things that since a lot of stuff is based on the dollar, we have a lot of advantage being the dollar, right? In financial higher end transactions than I could ever think about saying. But the same thing's kind of with crypto here. Is our administration kind of took the first step, and now everybody kind of is in trying to establish that. You see banks are have crypto. It's very mainstream now. I mean, I don't know a lot about it, so I want to hear more every day. But you're right. I think 10 years, 20, whatever years from now, that's going to be the currency, right? That kind of stuff. Digital
Yeah,
is the only currency, right?
yeah, and actually, a lot of people thought it was a scam because there wasn't
Yeah.
they didn't understand the utility of it, right? And one of the most crucial things that people miss out up till this day that I don't hear about is that during that time there was a third party. I would say it was a merchant processor. It was named Liberty Reserve, and so third
Yes.
different countries like Vietnam and overseas countries would use this merchant processor. And Liberty Reserve eventually got shut down by the feds. So uh, basically, any merchant that was using Liberty Reserve, they switched over to crypto. And so now everybody that needed to transact with those merchants,
When was that? Sorry to interrupt. What date range was that?
would have to look it up. I don't know exactly
Well,
which
I mean, do
date,
you
but
think
it was
it
before everything took off. Yeah.
okay. So that was kind of the igniter that took off, that created crypto to take off.
In my opinion, that was the igniter. Just because
Interesting.
in order for crypto prices to increase, somebody needs to buy it, right? And so in order
True.
for those prices to go up, somebody has to buy it specifically on exchange. Because if I bought crypto from you and you transfer it to me, that information will not really register, right? That as a transaction. It just registers as it does register as a transaction on the blockchain, but that doesn't show that, hey, you sold this crypto for this amount, right? And so that's called over the counter. So over the counter is never, it doesn't, like over the counter doesn't register that way. But besides all that, my crypto business, I used to buy over the counter coins and flipped it over the
Okay, let's
over the
stay on
market.
over the counter, because I had no idea. Okay, so let's get a little education, a little deeper, if you don't mind. I know I know you're kind of like, well, is this really something they're going to want to hear about? but I think it is a little bit, because that's interesting what you said. So the way you buy things matters on the market being able to continue to grow value, just like stocks, right? There's really no more. I'm going to be a dumb Apple stocks. There's no additional stocks being made. It's just every time they're bought, that same stock goes up in value. That's why you get the kind of volumes and numbers you get. It's not actually buying, right? It's not the original stock. You're buying the ownership of it over and over and over and over again, right? That's
sometimes I joke about it, and I think that like the financial market and stock market is just like one huge pyramid scheme, because in order for it to go, the prices to go up, somebody has to buy it, right? And so there's a lot of buyers, the price is going to go
That's our
up.
whole economy. That's capitalism.
Yeah.
Money's got to move.
Works for crypto, works for stock market. And I mean, during that time, like my eventually my Coinbase account got shut down. So I lost access to my exchange account. So I was out of business then. And I was transacting probably like millions of dollars of transactions when I was in college. And so my biggest focus during college was just my business. And so I eventually, failed all my classes and dropped out of school like the second year in college. And so after my business shut down there, I was like, well, what other opportunities are there? Like what else is there? And so I went on this spree of just like starting different businesses, like escape room businesses. I invested into like venture capital funds.
Did you say escape room?
Yeah.
That's a big deal. I mean, as far as investing wise, there's been several younger generation. That's bigger than I thought it was. Let's not get off on that subject because it's a different. Obviously, it's fun. But it's surprised when you said escape room, because I've heard that a couple of times in a row now. It's a big deal. A lot of people are doing it.
Yeah, I find a lot of inspirations from traveling. So the first time I went to London, there was an escape room, and I tried it there. I was like, "Hey, this is a pretty cool idea. I want to bring it back and try to build it." But at that time, there wasn't like really any instructions on how to do it. So I'm a big process like systems kind of guy. So I like starting things just to know how it's done, right? And so, but that business didn't last. It was like maybe 3 to 4 years, and then I called it quits. We were profitable. We were netting like 200,000 net. And it was a fully like it was like I would say it's an automated business because we had managers and things like that. And so and during that time it was COVID too. So but we weren't losing, that didn't really affect revenue that much. But we did have to shut down during that COVID period.
You did have to or did not?
We did have to shut down during that COVID period. But I also made a decision to just kind of get rid of that business and just focus on and kind of focus my goals on the financial markets, because I've been trading stocks, equities, options since I was 18 as well. So I was doing like a bunch of different things. And so I guess once I started moving into the stock market, that's how I founded InsideOptions, right? A lot of people back then, a lot of friends, a lot of family, they were like, "Hey, like, how do I get into this? Like, I've never heard of this before." And they saw that I had an eye for, investing and finding like different opportunities, and I think I did. So at that time,
I'd have to agree with you. I mean, I appreciate Golf Life what you're asking here. Perfect lead into that too, because that is an inspirational thing to. And you start to get to a point, like you said, we're making clearing a couple $100,000, but there's businesses that are not worth that, where you're doing something you love and you found the secret sauce. So all your energy goes into that, right?
Yeah, it's just on I guess my goals on what I wanted to do in life and how much time I wanted to spend. All right. I didn't want to spend like
Good point.
my I didn't want to spend my time like doing a traditional blue collar job like 9 to 5. I wanted to have a bit more freedom. All right. And so that was kind of how I was able to accomplish it. I had specific businesses that had those attributes, right? The ability to choose when you trade, when to trade, what to trade, and that was the start of InsideOptions. And right now we've grown to a community of about 1,000+ traders. And so we started InsideOptions around 2020. That was during the COVID era. And actually during the COVID there was a lot of retail traders too. Like that was, I would say, it was the initial boom of retail traders. And so anybody that got bored of staying in home started, investing into the stock market. And 2020, it built a lot of wealth for a lot of people. And so I started the community, built options and options community. And at that time, from 2020 to 2022, like we were doing trade alerts and we were trading stocks, we were trading options, but we were missing a lot of, I felt like we were missing a lot of things that was needed in the community. Just because when we were trading stocks, nobody would get in at the same time and vice versa. And so what really helped my business take off, like we're doing, I would say our business, it's about $10 million in revenue right now. And over that 2-year period that we started our program. And so in 2022, we started a program called the SPX program. And the SPX program came out when CBOE, which is the Chicago Board of Exchange, released an update for options known as daily expirations. So in options trading, the expiration before was expiration date was only Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. And when they released daily option expirations, you had expirations from Monday all the way to Fridays. I think also during that time, a big part, I guess I'll talk about the strategy because, like a big part of the strategy is that we use strategies that are exploiting an efficient market. And the strategies.
Let me hold you off there for a second, if I could, because I think I've been reading through some of the questions. I like to kind of dig a little deeper sometimes. This is exactly the most important part. But there's a couple of people that have some questions.
Yeah.
Let's answer that. By the way, this is going to be a hard show. I'm going to have to manage you because there's a lot of people asking a lot of questions. We're already way behind. So we've got some big interest here. But I do have a hard stop. So I always put that buffer. I think we talked about a little bit in between because it rarely goes just an hour. So as we go along, I want to make sure and keep up and we get everything in there and we don't miss anything because this is really something that has people fired up about what you're talking about, because now for the first time, it's like you can see something that you never thought you could really see, right? And this is exciting for people that have an opportunity to take their life using your example and make that at any time. I can do it right now, right?
Yeah.
So let me hit this real quick here. And again, I'm sorry for this is why I want to learn them before I get on. Amazing, excuse me, amazing episode. Thanks for making, and this is what I was talking about right here, David. Making options trading clearer for retail traders. Now, also, really curious is, and this is always something, is what's the risk? Because there's risk. I mean, not just doing slot machines, but there is risk. Well, go ahead and start there, and then we'll get into a couple more, and then we'll go into the strategy, because that ties all this together a bit.
Sure. We'll talk about risk. So to start, risk is relative, right? Risk for you is not the same risk for me, right?
True.
If I have more experience trading, risk might be relatively lower, right? And if you're trading with your life savings, your risk might be higher, right?
That's a bit higher. Yeah.
And so I start with that. Like, risk is relative, but the question is that how risky is Iron Condor, right? And for me, risk is always defined, because with Iron Condors, you have a defined risk and reward. You know how much you're going to make, and you know how much you're going to lose. And this year alone, we haven't had a losing month, right? And so I guess when we're talking about risk, it's relative, right? It's considering that we haven't had a losing month this year, and that also will tie into the strategy as well, right? Because we try to deploy everything necessary in order to reduce that risk, the perception of risk.
Yeah, and and that's where the whole nugget is, because the perception of risk often adds to risk, because now, unless you have a good strategy, unless you have that experience behind you, you may make decisions to outguess your own self.
Yeah.
Coming from that, right? That confidence or non-confidence level, and that can be expensive.
And it's depending on like what you're looking for too. Like I found everything I'm looking for. Like I don't spend all my day, like just working, like we have one trade at the end of the day. At the most, we have like a handful of trades a month, right? And so that was kind of like what I was looking for when I was getting into options. I was looking for something where, I just didn't have a lot of time. Like I didn't need to spend a lot of time. I didn't need to keep up with news before like I guess my 10 years of trading. Every day I woke up at like 3, 4 in the morning just to read news and do all that stuff. And that was like the traditional way of trading, right? Like when you think about a trader, you see them with like a gazillion screens, and you think they're like, you have a perception of what traders are. But the reality is that reality is different, for me. And that's why we're kind of changing the landscape of traditional trading.
So you just said you have about 1,000 people. Your community, is it are you doing a school community, or are you doing like discourse, or is that what you mean by your community? So one of those programs?
Yeah, I host a community on Slack. So what Slack. It typically looks like is when somebody enrolls in the program, they enroll into the program, they access to training. Sometimes it's really all about learning how to open and close trades. And usually somebody that comes in with absolutely no experience will most likely outperform traders with decades of experience and under I would say 45 days or so.
Let me ask you this. Now I know it's because of your system. So, but just to open the box a little bit, maybe the strategy without, there's only so far you can talk about, obviously.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everybody else will start doing the same thing, right? So, what does that look like? Is that a fair question? What you just said.
I'm more than happy to explain it, because working with working with over 1,000 people, even if you give them if you show them how to do it, there's always like one or a handful of people that just don't do it. I don't know why, but that's the story of it. But to start with the strategy, so we use a strategy. I would say the simplest way is we use a strategy that's banned in casinos, right? Because if you think about casinos, because casinos is a very large business, and they are based on statistics, right? Like they make their money on statistics, on positive expectancy. The stock market is a similar way, because with options trading, there's statistics built into the option chain already. So the market will tell you what your probabilities are. So because we understand that, now we need to understand what the strategy is that we're doing. Okay. So I was recently featured in the Wall Street Journal. I got a big front page on the Wall Street Journal recently. And
really?
Yeah.
So, I read that. That's very impressive. Obviously, that's a well, it's great to say, but it's also, the bottom line is that's a financial journal. And so go on with your story. That's a congrats. Good.
Yeah. So the reason why we made that journal piece is because we trade a significantly large amount of options contract, cumulatively across 1,000 or so members. And sometimes those option contracts exceed the amount that JP Morgan, puts on for their caller trades. And so in that article, it talks about a strategy that we use. The strategy is known as a Martingale strategy, right? So if people don't know what the Martingale strategy is,
I do not. Please, yes, please.
It's a statistical strategy that people typically use in casinos, where if you play roulette or whatever it is, and you bet $5, for example, right? And let's just say you lost $5, right? The bet didn't go as well as planned. The next bet, you place a $10 bet, and it continues, right? You double your bet every single time until you win. So there's a big misconception in the stock market that you need to be right. You need to have like a high accuracy rate to make money. But it's the complete opposite with the martingale strategy. The martingale strategy is just a mechanic in the options trading world, right? And I guess the biggest
Oh,
way
what a
to
great description way to put that.
yeah.
I
So
like that.
let's say we took 10 trades, right? And 9 out of those 10 trades we made $100 each trade, so $900. And on the 10th trade, you're like, man, I feel so good. I'm gonna put a bigger trade, and boom, you're down like $1,000. So now you have a 90% accuracy rate, and you're still losing money, right? And that's the story. You could have a high accuracy rate and still lose money, but with our strategy, we only need to be right, 16% of the time to be profitable. And that's how we use the martingale strategy to be profitable in the stock market.
Interesting. I like that.
Another thing is that the reason why it's banned in casinos is because there are table limits. Like when you're playing blackjack or roulette or whatever. And I don't gamble at all like that, but I like to study like the statistics behind it. And so
Smart move.
if you're playing blackjack or you're playing roulette, there are table limits. So the table limits will always stop you from doubling your bet because they know that if you have an infinite amount of money, you will always win at the end of the day, right?
Explain
And
that a little bit more. If you have an infinite, okay, so if you have an infinite amount of money, you'll never run out of money.
to
But
double down,
what
yeah.
you're saying is with this strategy, if you have an infinite amount of money, you also can't lose at the strategy because it's just a mechanic, just a straightforward step by step. It's the odds. You're gonna win that bigger number after losing so many, right? That's
Yeah.
kind of the bigger picture, right?
Yeah, but the thing is that even if let's just say if you had $1 billion and you were doing the strategy, you still have a
Okay.
defined reward, right? And so sometimes if you do the calculations, it doesn't make sense to deploy $1 billion just to make 1% a year, right? It has to be like a significant amount to, and at least beating the market, right? And so there's a lot of mathematical calculations on how we adjust things, and it's not straightforward doubling, right? It's not straightforward. We're trading every single day. We only have a handful of trades a month, right? And
Yeah,
so maybe
what's the purpose of that? And can you answer? Can you also answer Michael's question here about the Iron Condor as far as a specific example?
Yeah, so Iron Condors are comprised of 4 legs, and sometimes you might not need to know what those legs are, but just to give an example. So Iron Condors, they make money when the stock market stays within a specific range. Kind of like if you're playing tennis or you're playing pickleball, whatever it is, basketball, the court's your range, right? If SPX closes within that range, you make money. If SPX closes outside that range, you lose money. So it's a binary outcome. You either make money or you lose money, and that's very important in a martingale strategy, right? There's other strategies like dollar cost averaging, where if the stock goes down, you buy more. You always hear this, right? In traditional investing, you always dollar cost average. That's kind of similar to martingale, right? Except that there isn't a defined risk and reward. Yeah.
That's some okay. So you've in these communities. So I'm assuming that in the communities, they have pre-recorded information that you've gone through some sessions and so forth. And then you also have a community now that you're discussing these things back and forth, these strategies. And because if you're only doing a couple trades a month,
yeah,
I don't know if I'm saying that right. I think I'm saying a few trades a month.
Handful, yeah.
How are you determining a handful of trades a month? How are you and or the other 999,000, whatever, 1,000 people determining those trades? Is it just how much more time is spent on the research side than 12 trades a handful of trades a month? Sounds holy crap! I'm starting this tomorrow. No, I'm starting it right now.
It's that's my work, right? So my work is we build algorithms. This is a quantitative strategy, so everything's quantifiable. I'm a data person, so I look at the numbers and I show you the data, right? And we trade based on the data. And so we built a quantitative algorithm, and that algorithm will spit out signals to the Slack community.
And those signals are received by that community, and they say, "Do this," and you do that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what's
absolutely.
what's a specific example? Like I'm assuming
Like
he's
if there
talking
was a
about
trade,
thank you. Go ahead, please.
yeah. So for example, if there's a trade today, right? Like we have the specific parameter on when to trigger trades, and we won't discuss that right now. But for example, if there was a trade today, the Slack channel will post a message saying, "Well, this is what you need to trade. These are the 4 strikes that you need to select. And these are the same strikes that I select in my own hedge fund too. So everybody's trading the same thing. And that's one important thing about the stock market as well, is that we're not in direct competition with each other, right? Like it doesn't take away from me if you win. And we all win and we all lose together, right? And so I don't have any incentive to, I don't have any incentive to not share with you, right? It's kind of like, even even the most successful traders and hedge funds in the world, they take on outside capital, right? Because they can scale. And I'm doing that similarly with, the community.
I'm noticing that kind of thing. Let me veer off a little bit from investing here as far as part of the topic. By the way, we have like 420 people on, and there's a bunch of questions that I still have to get to. So I'll make this short. But it was interesting you said that how that you're not losing anything, you're not in competition, so you're sharing readily and fully, and with joy and excitement in your life and world. Kidding aside, I see that also in just the new world itself. My generation depends on your generation, and really I have a granddaughter, 16 years old. We're starting a show together. We had her first series yesterday. It's very cool. She's an awesome girl, and she thinks I'm cool, so she's even more awesome. So that's a good start. So we talk about different things, and I'm noticing that specifically, well, okay, I've only noticed this, could be more, but specifically I've noticed, like in the world of automation, in the world of AI, you're talking about in the world of the new financing, revenue streaming, and there's a lot more desire to give things to people, to give more than, I got to cover my costs, I got to do this, I got to do that.
Yeah.
But a lot of the automation written is by dudes in their computer room, just going along typing, because they know how important this stuff is. Look at you are the, what I call, so my most important generation is my we taught her, and I define that age, which is different than the generation I'm talking about, but that, say 12, 13 to 19, maybe 20-year-old right now, that group coming up, what they do is going to make a really big impact on when they do actually retire. Your generation's moving through and making better. You're the transitional generation to where everybody after you knows nothing about what I did as a business, as a world, as an effort, as a society, except for the museums and history books. But you're that transitional. So it's interesting the position you guys have, because I think you're surprising a lot of people in my generation. Well, I don't know, maybe I'm making all this up, but to me, surprising, because all of a sudden a generation that we're kind of scared of as being, I don't give a shit, where I'm getting married, 20 years after all the things that we did and thought were that building blocks. You guys are getting married later. You buy housing is a challenge. There's all sorts of different things that are, because the new world is going to change all that with AI and all that. It's interesting the world you're living in, but I also think your generation's really seeing the importance of the moment and being able to handle that. Do you agree with that? I mean, all of that, like I said, I'm getting off of the subject a little bit, but all of that came from, because I'm helping you in trading, in in this business venture, this program, I'm not competing with you. I have no reason not to give you as much information as you're willing to take or whatever. I'm seeing that a lot more from this new way of doing business. Back in the Carnegie Steel, everybody screwed everybody as much as they could because they wanted that capital, thing. But everybody now is, I think, realizing the better you do in this kind of stuff means that money's moving, which is meaning the better I'm doing, which, and it's kind of going around in that kind of case. Do you kind of see that?
I think it depends on.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it depends on the type of vehicle, right? Like if the vehicle as in like the business you're doing, right? Like if you're starting a business where if it's like a local business, you're gonna have competition if you help somebody else that's going to be building within the same area.
Gotcha.
You're gonna take market share, right? And that's why I like the stock market. After looking over the past 10 years, I always look for things, right? Like that's how I found crypto. That's how I found like all these other different one-time opportunities, right?
Be curious. Yeah,
be curious, and that's why I like the stock market so much, because the liquidity, there's so much liquidity in there, and you're not in direct competition with anybody. With any other business like restaurants or real estate, you're fighting other people with it, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, no, absolutely. I did kind of leave a little bit of a important point out there. It does depend on the industry. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
Thanks for not throwing me under the bus there. I just threw myself under the bus. I'm okay with that. But thank you. That was an excellent point. But you're right. In this financial world, we have. It's funny because AI gives us, the little guy, right? And you can say this either way, business or whatever. I can compete with the big companies that always had those resources, and now it's cheap to be able to operate. I mean, the actual cost of moving the money is cheap. For me to make an automation is a tenths or hundredths or thousandths of a penny for a certain amount of digit points used to send that marketing program that a couple of years ago would have cost me $20,000 to run or something like that.
Right.
So the world is becoming much more amenable to this type of business. I wanted to say, is there what Citrus Hills is talking about here, as far as, can you recommend any books or research stuff? There's a couple of other questions as where they can go to get additional information. We're not near done yet. But there's people already wanting to get some information from, which reminds me, in the private chat, put your contact information sometime between now and whenever.
Yeah. So books and resources. Well, I've talked about this earlier, and there's a lot of free material on YouTube, but most of them are not actionable, right? And so with that being said, even books, right? Books become outdated. There's like books on like markets, mind over matter and things like that. Everything's becoming outdated. Even like the authors of the books are releasing statements saying that, some of these things are outdated. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, and the only thing I can recommend is what I'm doing myself, which is my strategy, right? Because the strategy is based on statistics, and that just never you can't get outdated on that. Right? It's just a law of the how markets work. For example, one of the biggest analogies, and one of the most crucial analogies that I give to people when discussing and explaining my program, is that the market is like a coin flip, right? If you were to flip heads or tails, the probability is 50-50. And no matter what you do, even if you try to flick the coin harder, maybe you might get a better percentage, but the law of the universe is that a coin flip is always 50-50. And because the stock market is also efficient, efficient meaning that it prices in all relevant information, and that the market will pay you based on the risk that you take. So if you risk $100 and to make $100, your probability is 50-50, right? And with the stock market, you can adjust your trade setup in a way where you can have a 68% chance of winning a trade, which is a standard deviation. And so in order to lose 5 trades in a row with a 68% chance of winning, you have a 99% chance of winning a trade. And so our strategy, we comprise our strategy based on a series of trades. and that's kind of like how we do it. And we don't read books. I don't write books. Like if I were to write a book, I'd probably be too lazy to do it. So I think the most important thing is just like, I guess, listening to podcasts like this, right? Listening to podcasts, exploring the scene.
Which one's your favorite one?
I try to stay away from media. Like I stay away from TV.
Dude, I was gonna just record this. I was just gonna use this as a commercial. I threw you out a cheap and ugly, hopeful self-promotion when you said podcast, and I said, which is your favorite? You didn't even see me rolling my eyes.
You didn't let me finish.
Yeah,
let me finish.
Hold on, let me start over. So what's your favorite?
So to finish, I don't watch any TV. I don't watch any other podcasts besides Insights and Straight Talk.
Are you kidding me? Oh,
gotta let me finish.
All right, there's a lot of editing going on in this one. Let you finish. Go ahead. But
Insights and Straight Talk, that's the only podcast list.
That was it.
Yep.
I told you were my newest, bestest friend ever. Big fan here. When did you first discover? So we've already talked about this, I know, but when was it that you kind of when was that aha moment, right?
Iron Condor has always been around since forever, but it was just about using it as a vehicle once TBOE released daily option expirations, because we started this program in 2022 only because we understood and agreed that the market is efficient. And at that time, we had to figure out what kind of strategies we could use to replicate a coin flip, right? If you were to use Iron Condor to take both sides of the markets, and that would represent a coin flip. And so the statistics and all the probabilities are baked into that.
Let me jump in on you right now, because I'm going through some down the so we're not having to look all funny. I'm going down looking at some of them, and just what you're talking about right now. So my guessing here is this Florida gentleman here looks like he works for the state or something. But anyway, are you saying then that actually we could answer, there are no perfect, actually all conditions are perfect because you're right, or are there better conditions?
So we trade the SPX. So SPX is a cash settled index. It's a European settled index. And so when we're trading SPX, there's a options pricing formula known as the Black-Scholes. It's how options are priced. And part of that calculation is implied volatility, right? So if the market becomes more volatile, implied volatility increases, the options will price in for that. And that's why we talk about how the market is efficient. And that's why our strategy, we exploit an efficient market instead of trying to profit off inefficiencies that a lot of people do. So we can do this in any condition. And we've been doing this for the past 3 years.
Let me back you up a second here. The inefficiencies, what does an inefficient market look like?
Well, like an efficient market, it's where
that's what this program works best off. You just said, right? You work in all markets, but when you recognize an inefficient market, then it becomes a better return. Am I reading that right, or am I misunderstanding that? And please explain more, please.
Well, so an efficient market, it's just the law of the market, right? It's called market efficiency hypothesis. It's the hypothesis.
What the market's doing, like this?
It's a hypothesis that the market will always reflect current information. So if a news goes out tomorrow where it's like COVID, the market will react to it, right? And so inefficiencies in the market, a lot of quantitative, traders will try to look for inefficiencies, and sometimes inefficiencies can be like subjective as well, like imbalances in the market. If the market's breaking out from consolidation, that's an imbalance, right? And that's also technical though as well. And so there's technical traders, there's fundamental traders, but for what I do, I focus on the statistics and the laws of how the markets work. So with that being said, I don't use charts to make a decision based on our strategy. And I've been a technical trader for the past 10+ years, and this program or the strategy that we're doing made everything obsolete, right? Because now we're not guessing where we don't need to guess where the market's needs to go. We make money in the green or red market. And so every day the market gives you all the numbers that you need. It tells you what the expected move is every single day. So the market tells you that tomorrow they're expecting a 20-point move, whatever, right? That 20-point move is roughly a standard deviation. But you're collecting a specific amount of premium and risking a specific amount. For example, you might make $170, but you're risking $330, right? And so your probability
Right.
of profit is going to be baked into that because the market is efficient.
But what you just said, and in this, the thing that I always found really important, I want to talk about this here as far as any adjustments. But what you just said, and you said this earlier, and I just let it pass because I didn't know if my responding at that point would be in context. But now, you're able to win 100. I'm making up, trying to remember the numbers you just said. Your profit could be $120. You're putting 370 at risk, or whatever those numbers were. But you know that ahead of time. What you also know is the percentage of your ability to, like you said, it predicts the market coming up. It'll give you have an 80% chance of winning this trade.
Yeah, but
hitting
because
within the margin.
Yeah, but because the market's efficient, it pays you based on the risk that you take. So it kind of balances out. And that's another thing that I usually talk about is positive expectancy. Like if we're to flip a coin with 50-50, and every time you won, you made $20, but every time you lost $10, you have a positive expectancy, right?
Yeah.
And so we focus on positive expectancies in our own strategy. That's why we only have a handful of trades a month, because we know what days or what labels or basically what trades have negative expectancy.
Because that already knows. Because is it an algorithm, or is that a lazy word to use?
I guess no, it's not an algorithm, but it's quantitative,
Yeah.
meaning that we collect data on it over the past 3 years, and we can kind of
Trending. Gotcha.
Yeah, we see what's happening. So, for example, if you
Gotcha.
traded one Iron Condor every single day, there's 252 trading days in a year. You trade one contract with Iron Condors every single day, you're gonna lose money. That's negative expectancy. That's what normal traders do. They try to make money where because there might be some months where trading those Iron Condors might produce positive expectancy, but overall you'll produce negative expectancy. So you're trading against the house, kind of like gamblers in a casino.
Yeah, you never want to do that. That's a design loss. So as far as any adjustments along the way, I don't sense any, certainly recently, but any adjustment. I mean, it's just always, and that's one thing. Another thing I love about this business and the current business, there's a lot of data like this. When I go through and I can see when listeners are watching, what time they're most off, all that data is really becoming more and more. And you're just teaching people how to, how you're showing people from the data that you've been using since what, I don't know, 10, 20 years, that you've been working the knowledge base of getting to this point. And here we are now being able to take advantage of it, almost like digging in a stream of gold, kind of thing. That's kind of a neat little thing.
You can't backtest it for 20 years because this is new, right? CBOE released this in 2022. It just happened that we were building this already, and CBOE released that update. And so that was a jackpot for us because we were already working on it, right? And so I was really happy when that came out.
Kind of jumping in, heading in with some momentum, some steam behind you already. That's called being in front of the ball, right? That's where you want to be.
I saw a question about adjustments. We don't technically. I'll just say we won't make adjustments like that, right? The only adjustments that we make is discretional adjustments, like if we wanted to manage risk, or that's what people enroll into the group for. like we manage risk too as well.
So what you're saying is that as far as adjustments to the way your system operates, it's pretty dialed in. Now there may be some adjustments people want to make for managing risk, and then you'll have that same program, but working in a way that meets those additional goals. That's what I'm
Yeah, a
thinking,
lot of
right?
people traditional traders use stop loss. We're against that because all of the risk and reward, Iron Condors have defined risk and reward. And so we either take the full win or we take the full loss. Because in the market, money is finite. So it takes a lot of money to breach our Iron Condors consecutively, right? In order to breach the expected move 10 times in a row is a significant amount of money. And that's why sometimes we wait for people to spend their money before we start executing our trades.
Wow, this is a totally different way of thinking about approaching a business strategy. Well, not even specifically, but specifically in trading, because it's right. I mean, to me, it seems not akin, but the opposite of what you would think people are doing. And you opened it up with currently, traders fail 97% of the time, just like new businesses do. But having that experience changes that. But that's an interesting, aggressive, and totally different approach, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I have
Than
an
the
extensive
typical
network. I have an extensive network of traders. I don't know one single trader that's successful that's not in our program. Most people that are unsuccessful, they come into my program. They're like, "Oh man, I should have been doing this a long time ago." And a lot of people are stubborn too. Like they'll see what I'm doing and they're like, I want to learn it myself. I want to do it myself. I can do it myself. And they're just stuck. So
yeah. I think we opened this up. Just by coincidence, I said this opening up. There's a lot of people out there that, for different reasons, most of which are their own doing, some of which aren't, and a lot of which are just not knowing. They're stuck. They don't know how. They're. I know I can get this. I know I can get that. I went through this with automation. Talk about a son of a bitch. My God. It's a new language. This is a new language. It's like me going to Germany in 2 weeks, and I got to be fluent by then.
Yeah, but I think this is way more simple. So I think this is so simple.
Well, no.
Yeah.
No. What I'm saying is without it, because you have to have experts to guide you through that to be able to make an impossible thing happen. You're not going to learn German on your own like that unless you're out there. But you can learn the language from somebody who knows it and be able to achieve. I just use German as an example. Yeah. But yeah, you can make that easier. Make it doable. Make it knowing that I can do it is my point.
And it's important too. Like it's important, like who you follow too. Because there's, like I said, there's a lot of groups out there. There's a lot of Discord. I've tried them all. I've tried them all. I've watched all the tutorials. I've watched everything. So
yeah, there's always a rush to somewhere where people can make what they believe work for them, and so you get a flooded market, especially in these kind of things, as things are really coming out. So I'm really glad that we're able to get into contact, get in touch with each other, be able to process information. I'm guessing that working in bear markets, again, there are adjustments, as you just said, but that's what would make sense on risk and so forth. But I mean, bear markets does it matter the market so much as the program? That's kind of all three of these are tied together a bit, I think.
Well, the market's been pretty volatile this year, and like I said, we haven't had a losing month this year, and so it works in bear markets because we don't care if it's bear or bull. We don't care if it's green or red. We care about statistics, right? And we only need to be right 16% of the time, right? So it's just at the end of the day, it's just numbers.
That's amazing, man. That is amazing. Sean here's got a question for you. Any tips for sizing? I didn't get to see this one. Sizing Iron Condor trades. What is it? I don't know what he means sizing.
He's talking about the quantity. So I think it would be a disservice for me to answer that without much context, because a lot of people are going to be watching this and they're going to go into the market trying to trade the Iron Condors, and they're going to lose their asses, right? And so we have a specific system. We have a quantitative strategy on when to take trades, not only when to take trades, but also the sizing, right? And the strikes too. It matters about what strikes you choose, what quantity that you size for. But the sizing is a big part of our success, right? Because sizing is also part of the statistical advantage. Because if you have a significant amount of capital, you will be able to sustain the drawdown.
And you can adjust, and you can also affect the market, right?
And that's why we made the feature on the Wall Street Journal, because
exactly.
We were moving the market.
You were hitting big numbers, and like you said, moving the market. This is a great show, dude. I mean, this is really interesting. As far as that tips and that sizing, I'm going to use that, Sean. I'm going to use you, brother. I'm using you. You hear me? Yeah, I'm using you right now with David to make sure that he puts his contact information into the private chat so that we can make sure that you guys have this information, because that way you'll be able to, you know how it is, David. A month from now, a week from now, somebody's going to run across this and they're going to go, oh, shit. Wish I was there. I want to know if he'll do, or what about that? If they got your contact information, it really helps, because they could just move along with you versus trying to figure, comment on the thing and hope you or I run across that particular post, right? So as far as the sizing, but this one I thought was very amazing topic, perfect timing for retail traders. Now I know if you're a retail trader, this is the next evolution, right? Retail traders that's the old school way, right? Or
there's millions of traders out there, and there's only 1,000 people. There's only 1,000 people in a group, and we're in the top 1% probably in the world right now. And so, for example, even the largest quant funds lost money in June and July, and we haven't lost a single month this month.
That's some good, comfortable, long, easy breezy sleeping.
So there's retail traders, and then there's us, right? So I don't think we're in the category of retail traders anymore.
No, I don't think he's asking that. I think what he's saying is this a good time for, if you're a retail trader now?
Yes.
Is this a good time maybe to make a change? I think is where he was going with this. And maybe I'm wrong, because I already warned you, my eyes are just not working for me right now. Can't wait till the mail comes. But I think that's where he was going with
that.
Right, Jason?
If you see opportunity to improve, you always take it.
I think you got somebody here that believes that you can. This has been an awesome show, dude. I have another one coming up. We're a bit past. We might want to keep in touch with each other. It looks a lot of people are definitely dying to keep up with this business, what you're doing, and run that community. And we're doing some stuff in AI. Maybe we can do some collaboration stuff and
fun. Yeah,
there's so many things we could have fun with. I mean, this is a beautiful world we're living in right now. Why don't you give a final word, final thought, a big goodbye. As soon as I see that red dot on your message thing there, I'll copy and paste it over to comments. I'm also going to do an outro like I did. So hang out in the green room and we'll see if you got any questions out of that.
Cool. Let me see. Do I need to type in the chat or?
Right now, give your closing thing. At this point, just don't leave them hanging.
All right. Cool.
And then when I throw you in the green room, just right away in the private chat, you see it there on the right. That's where you see. As soon as I see the red button, I'm going to pop you over.
Yeah.
In the comments.
Cool. Yeah. Do my farewells. Thanks to everybody for showing up, watching this podcast. It's been amazing.
It's
if
awesome.
you're a trader, you're an investor, and you're interested in this, and you have at least, $26,000, because trading is a business, you need capital, you need money to invest, and you want to trade, go ahead and visit my website. It's InsideOptions.io. Once you schedule a call, you'll probably get scheduled with one of my team, and eventually when you make it into the group, you'll get access to me.
Awesome. So since you speak so well and we were jerking around earlier, I'm going to try and get a commercial out of here. So what do you think about the audience and the people on our show today? What do you think? How do you think it went compared to other shows that you do? Because I know you're a busy guy.
I like the really good questions, right? I think the questions is a big part of it. So I enjoy having the questions.
Yeah, so that really makes this a lot easier because people are so smart on the show. And I get to go along for the ride. And I appreciate your time, man. I'm going to put you in the green room. Give a big wave to all your fan club out here.
All right, guys.
We'll see you around the corner. All right, man. So sorry, a little bit here. Finish your CS. Sorry, I cut you a little short. I'm trying to do it one more time. All right, perfect. Thank you. So yeah, here we are. We had another show and it went really well. I hope you guys like the new studio. Who knows? I don't know if I'm finished with it yet, or I mean, I kind of like the whole backdrop thing. Let me know what you think, guys. See, did we get everybody? I think we're all caught up here, and appreciate you guys coming on. Our next show is about. So today we have this show here, obviously, and then we have another show where we're talking about the ability for people in the workforce to come through and become a better leader and build within themselves. And then we have, I think we've got an AI for the third one in there as well. Second one's regarding women's health and fitness and mental ability to become that person and do all the things that are expected and challenged of each and every one of us each and every day. 3 shows today. Bear with me, folks, please. And that reminds me, subscribe, please subscribe and like the shows. I have rolled my whole world over into doing the things that I love the most and want to do them for the rest of my life. Don't plan on checking out anytime soon. And with the show, I always talk about having quantity is important. I've always talked about, though, having quality of life over quantity. And, that's why I'm really starting to understand. And it's through the experts on this show. It's through the people that come and give their time to be part of who we are and who we need to be and who we need to become. David, man, hats off. Bravo. That was an awesome day. And I really enjoyed it. I'm kind of chill right now. I know I'm usually a little bit more hyper. I didn't get very much sleep last night. I got up just thinking about the show. Finally got it, everything right under the wire. I was able, I'm looking at David's time this morning. I actually ran down to the downtown to open a checking account because I haven't had the chance to do it. One thing you got to really adjust to in a small town is, nothing opens up before 8 o'clock. There's a few breakfast places that do. I'm an early riser. I'm even the chickens here, the roosters in the back, in the acres over, they don't even start crowing until like 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. And so the banks open at 8. They close at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, oh my God. So I just wanted to get myself established because, we've got to get our thing going here on Insights and Straight Talk. Thank you, David, for your great gig. And, I've got to get out there. My name's Rod Duff, and I'm your host, and I'm out.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here, and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, producer Barbie and I are out.